All right, Adam, this is the one we've been waiting to talk about all podcast long. Bunch of stinkers this week, but boy, Dolphins and Eagles, not one of them. Sunday Night Football as well. We get it as a standalone 2.5 in favor of the Eagles right now at home. It is becoming an expensive 2.5 at a couple of the books out there. Could be headed to 3. 51.5 is the total. Boy, what an interesting handicap. What an interesting breakdown. You have strength on strength. You have MVP, candidates all over the place. Offensive Player of the Year candidates all over the place. Really kind of an interesting, what is McDaniel going to do to combat what the Eagles defense does well, et cetera, et cetera. It's just really, truly just a fascinating game of two teams that are great, but great at different things, which makes the chess match even more cool.
I can't tell you a game this year, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, where my handicap has swung all the way from one end of the pendulum to the other this week. And I'm fully willing to admit that, right? Like some people are like, yeah, I know. I just look at this game. I see what I believe. No, every dig that I have done has pulled me to one side or the other. And here's where I am in the middle. Here's where I ultimately landed on this. I landed at a Miami teaser. And I landed at Miami plus 8.5. And here's why. I don't need to tell you how great the Miami offense is. I told you last week. I gave you the numbers. Pick a number, and they are generational on offense. And so I feel great about that. Philadelphia hasn't looked right? Like we know that Philadelphia has not looked right. But to sell on Philadelphia right now, you would be selling at the absolute bottom of the market after that loss last week. Jalen Hurts didn't look good against pressure. Miami's not going to put the kind of pressure on Jalen Hurts that the New York Jets put on Jalen Hurts. Here's where I land on the teaser for Miami. If you think Miami's going to win, great. I can't argue that. It is the most elite offense we have seen in a decade in the NFL, at the very least in a decade. But if Philadelphia is going to win, then we know what Philadelphia's script is for winning a game. They are going to try to get a lead on you, and they are going to try to boa constrict you to the end of the game, right? They're going to try to sit on you. They are not going to run the score out on you. It's just not what they're built to do. If they're going to beat you, they're going to beat you by getting the ball in the second half and running one of these 10-minute drives where they just pound the ball over and over again, which you can do. Miami's defense isn't great. But that, to me, leaves the door wide open to the back for Miami to be able to cover a teaser. I don't see this offense losing by more than 8.5. And I know you can go point to the Buffalo game if you want to point to a game in which you saw an offense be able to run it up on the Miami Dolphins. This Eagles team is a completely different team than the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have the explosion to do that. The Philadelphia Eagles do not, and I'm going to be fascinated to hear where you're landing on this thing, Matt.
Yeah, honestly, it was an injury report game for me. I really wanted to play the Dolphins, and then this injury report is everything I didn't want to see. And so it comes through. This is only about 20 minutes ago, guys. So Jalen Ramsey was able to practice all week long, out. Not even questionable, not even whatever, out. Xavier Howard, questionable also. Nick Needham, who is a backup for them as a defensive back, also questionable for them. Then you look on the other side in the Eagles, in which I was like, oh boy, this injury report after yesterday, I'm like, boy, howdy, this is going to be the spot to come in on the Dolphins. Everybody's playing except for Bradley Roby. I mean, Lane Johnson off the report. Devon Smith off the report. Jalen Carter off the report. Dallas Goedert, Darius Slay, Eli Ricks. They're all off the report. They're not even listed as questionable. Like, they're literally no game status attached to all of them. It went as pure for the Eagles as humanly possible with how bad that report looked yesterday. And so it's tough for me. I think this is maybe a sit back and just enjoy some awesome football. And if for whatever reason maybe this thing starts slow, I might come in on an in-game over, because I do think at some point both of these teams are going to find their footing with each other. It might be a little bit more of a chess match early on, Adam, than even a little bit later, right? And so kind of a feeling out process, think heavyweight boxing match, something or whatever. And so if it starts out slow, I could see this thing dips into the mid 40s, low 40s, whatever, however it goes. Like I could see myself coming in and end game over. But with this injury report, God, I wanted to play the Dolphins so bad, and I just can't now.
So let's talk about the live betting, because
Yeah.
I do think there's a definite approach to this game that you can take with live betting, with the spread being so close in this game to start with. If you think that this is a game that trends toward the high total, right? And it's come back a little bit, right? At 51.5, I think was the last that I saw on total, unless that's moved at all. But if you think this is going to be that game, Matt, do you have an updated number for me? No, I thought you had an updated number. Okay.
Yeah, no.
If you think it's going to be that game, then you're going to see scoring back and forth. And if you think that they're going to score early on script especially, and that's where we've seen the Eagles offense be better, is early on script, there are going to be plus money opportunities on the money line on both teams here. You're going to be able to create yourself a nice little base from which to work, at which you might at some point in this game, if you're able to jump it correctly, if the game plays out the way you want it to, there might be plus 150, plus 175 on both sides of this at various points throughout the game. Maybe not even that good on both sides, but I do think you can create a plus money situation and then maybe work with something later depending on how you see things starting to play out. Like you said, maybe it's an in-game over if things start out slowly. But I do think if you start to see them start out fast especially, you're going to have a chance to do better betting this game live than pregame.
And listen, I don't want to ever bet against Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. But as you mentioned, Adam, I think in conjunction, if you're on the Eagles side of this game, like you said, it's different with the Eagles than it would be in most scenarios. Like most scenarios, if you wanted to bet an over on a wide receiver, you'd probably want them to get down. Like it's actually a good thing for you where they have to abandon the run after. But the way the Eagles like take the air out of the ball and the way that they go about things and the way that they handle business when they're up, Tyreek's number is 96.5. Like that is as high a receiving prop as you will see. Like, and so could he get there early? Of course he could get there early. Like, I mean, it's Tyreek Hill, right? He needs 2 catches to get to that. But if you just go traditional thinking, if you're leaning towards the Eagles and you think the Eagles are kind of going to handle business against this Dolphins defense, Tyreek getting to 100 yards is going to be fairly tough because there might not be enough downs and enough opportunity for him to get there.
So here's how I think you have to play that part of the handicap. A lot of what the Eagles do well to slow down the pass, they do with their pass rush, and they do without having to blitz, and they do with getting all of those front 4 or 5 guys home. That's hard to do against Tua Tagovailoa and how quickly Mike McDaniel gets the ball out of his hands. So it's this strange kind of handicap, and we don't have a lot of these, but it's Eagles under, right? Like it's favorite under in this game. You cannot think that the Eagles are going to score with Miami and win. It's no way, no how, no chance is that going to happen. If you think that this is an over, you probably think that it's Miami, because I can't see the Eagles winning a 30-27 kind of game. That to me feels way more like a Miami script.
Jalen Hurts, and I'll let everybody out of here on this, but Jalen Hurts passing prop is 255.5 yards, and I'm going to go with this again. But it's the Miami defense. If the Eagles try to do the whole path of least resistance thing, the Miami defense, specifically on the run defense, has been pretty poor so far this year. Like there are teams that have been able to run the ball pretty effectively against them, and so you look at that and like I don't know if there's a world that exists in which the Eagles have control of this game and they have control of the line of scrimmage, and also Jalen Hurts throws for 256 yards in the game. So I don't know if there is a path to that either. So something to kind of keep in play. That plays more of a, right at 200 type passing yardage game where they're running for another 140 between him and Swift and whoever else they decide to get some carries in this game. And so just trying to kind of do the whole game script, play it out through bets thing.
Well, play that out, and all you have to do to play it out is look at last week. Last week they had to put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands in order to try to win that game, and Jalen Hurts broke down. Right? That you can't say that the Jets caused all of that. Jalen Hurts had some bad passes in that game last week. And if we get Miami into a game state where you can go ears pinned back and go after Jalen Hurts, can Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm in that game? that's something we haven't seen out of Miami.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
out of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep. I think so. I think maybe even two paths to victory there for that one on the under 255.5 for Jalen Hurts. But a fascinating game nonetheless. Cannot wait